Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP lifesteal bleed build for Vex in Borderlands 4. Now this is extremely powerful because we are immortal, we basically can't be taken out, and we have high amounts of damage, especially with using the witchy trigger finger, which lets us use a wide variety of different guns, get our ammunition back so we can just keep our fire rate very high. Now you can see here, we're doing crazy amounts of damage. I'm just going to reload the gun there, immediately taking out the enemy. There's a lot of great torque sticky weapons that work here, but this can work with any type of weapon. We pretty much obviously need to use the Teen Witch class mod legendary version, which is a very good one because this gives us the ability to lifesteal onto our shields and get over shield as well. And it comes with extremely good skill rolls, and it'll give us a flat out 10% lifesteal on all damage. This means you don't have to use the middle tree here, and I'll show you two different builds, one with and without, depending if you want to use the kinetic leeching attunement or not. So with the witchy trigger finger getting our ammunition back and giving us a boost to our gun damage, and heart piercer actually using our health, but also healing us back for everything we get damaged by. We have a bunch of lifesteal with a few different skill tree options here, and this turns into power with the blood is power. The red skill tree also is a really nice one with giving us a 37.5% bonus kinetic damage, which is huge because this actually upscales the damage that we do greatly. And with the class mod, we got things like giving us increased overshield capacity as well as extra life steal. And with the Keen Mind, we're able to crit with our bleeds as well as our Eldritch Blast. So at level 1, we are going to take the attunement here, which will give us the ability to get lifesteal whenever we use kinetic damage. Now I want to clarify what this means. You get attunement for 6 seconds, which means whenever you have a kinetic weapon out, you can swap to a fire or a shock weapon, and you're going to keep the lifesteal for the 6 seconds there, as well as the reload speed buff. So I really like this. However, if you don't want to use a kinetic-based weapon, you can go with something like the Grave Sights, which is a kill skill, which will increase our critical hit damage and gun handling here, and it has stacks, which is important for a moment. Next, we're going to go with the Bloodletter here, which is cool. Now, Bleed did get nerfed a bit with the latest patch. This makes it so that it doesn't crit and then get infinite amounts of damage like it was with the critical hit knife. However, this does make things still pretty good, and Bleed is still very powerful as it takes percentage of your gun damage per second, which can be scaled up if you increase your gun damage or any other metric. And this is also increased by things like the Ars Arcana a little bit further. Skill damage counts as bleed damage. And therefore, the Keen Mind also applies to this, giving our bleed a bit of a critical hit chance, but it can't infinitely crit like it previously did. Now, if you don't want to go with that, we're going to take the Grave Implements there as a 20% gun damage buff, 3 stacks in 10 seconds. It's pretty good. Then we're going to go with the Material Components from levels 10 to 15, giving ourselves a boost to our kinetic damage and status effect damage, which is our bleed again. And at that point, you're going to go with go with either the 5 stacks of target pre-science here. I don't really like it. I'd rather go with 3 stacks of the Grave Power if you didn't want to go with the main skill tree here, and then take a couple points on our Guns and Deals or Volatile Essence. Now, once we get down here, I actually think it's best to make our way down to the Heart Piercer here, and the Ars Arcana is by far one of the best skill trees. It actually got buffed on the second previous patch, and it now does up to 45% bonus to skill damage, which again is both our bleed, our action skill counts as skill damage, and then things like Bloodshot will actually count here too. I don't really like Bloodshot on this build. For a lifesteal focused build, we want Essence Leech. So this gives us 10% lifesteal. Then when our action skill is active, we get 20% lifesteal. This also takes us down to our Capstone Heart Pierce, which will sacrifice health. However, it's going to heal us for the damage that we get dealt. So this isn't that bad unless you're extremely low on health. I wouldn't use this. Always be spamming this basically when you have it up because it's going to be healing you, and it's going to sacrifice 20% of your maximum health or current health, and it'll give you 150% of your sacrifice health back as bonus damage healing. This is really, really good. We also then can take the Blood as Power. Vex will gain bonus kinetic damage with guns based on our current lifesteal when our health is full. So we got a 10% lifesteal from here, a 10%, which turns to 20%. So it's a 30% total when we have our action skill active, and then 40% with our class mod. So that's 40% damage turning into 300% of lifesteal. This bonus damage is pretty much more than double your extra damage, which is crazy because our lifesteal times 3, that's 40% times 3, that's 120%. So huge boost to overall damage. We will want that. Now we can continue on here. I like the phase to get to phase pocket for particular weapons if you have them, but it's honestly not a bad idea to also just go into the red skill tree here and then five stacks of enchantment. So when our action skill is active, we'll be getting a bonus damage, not just a bonus to our damage, but an actual bonus kinetic damage, 37.5%. So that's huge. Any of the bonus damage buffs that we do get will actually apply to this as well, making our damage incredibly high. At this point, I like to stick back into the green skill tree. I have experimented with a bit of the blue skill tree, but across the board, I just found that sticking with the green was a little bit better. Now, we got a couple options here. I like Drink Full if you like fast firing guns, because it's just going to increase your fire rate, which increases your DPS. If you're doing that, you could go into one of the other skill trees, which will give you increased reload speed. The idle hands from the blue skill tree is nice when you're using Drink Full. However, I prefer the Keen Mind here, which gives our skill damage the ability to critically hit 15% bonus, which also does apply to things like the heart piercer, if we had bloodshot or bleeds, everything like that. So it's pretty effective. I think it's a good boost. And when the critical hit knife gets changed to no longer lock you at 30%, this will be great because it's going to be 30% critical hit knife, 15% from this. So you're nearly 50% critical hit. Now we can take ourselves a phase pocket 3 stacks. This is going to give us a 30% boost to our magazine size. The reason this is important is there's guns like the Bod, there's guns like the Chaosin, the Queen's Rest, which have toric stickies, and the more of them that we can get on the enemy, that increases the amount of damage the enemy takes because they scale up the damage by like 3% or 18%, depending on the type of gun that you're using, which if you have a bigger magazine size, you're putting out way more damage. And for the final 8 points, I actually like to go with the Grave Implements here, which gives us the 20% gun damage, 3 max stacks, and then you can get the 3 more stacks from Grave Power. I don't love the kill skills, and there's actually ways to get it to activate on critical hits with the Mortal Terror, so you get a 5% chance to activate a kill skill on crit, which can be kind of fun, but I just find that we only really have this for our kill skill. Well, it's nice. It gives us that 60% bonus gun damage, and with this, it becomes 120. So it actually is a nice boost if you take both of these for 8 points. It's a huge boost to our gun damage if we're taking out enemies. And I should mention, you should always have the Witchy Trigger Finger equipped as your augment, as this is going to give you back your ammunition, and it works really well with a lot of guns. If you don't want to go with something like that, you can use the Geist Wave early game. Energy Vampire can be decent as well into the mid game, but I just find that the Witchy Trigger Finger is by far the best. And I guess Iron Maiden can be decent if you want to go with more of a shield build. Which takes us to class mods, with the Teen Witch, as mentioned, being a big component of this. It's one of the craziest class mods we've ever received, because not only do we get the ability to get lifesteal onto our health, we can also go onto our shield and over shield. And this shield also gave me extra shield capacity, but 3 really great rolls. And this is why we want this one, because the skill rolls are so great. You can get them in the red skill tree. This gives you action skill damage at full health, which is okay. We really want it for the corporeal here, which will give you increased over shield capacity by 36% and increased damage dealt whenever we have over shield. And then also the Grave Thirst here, which will give you life steal for duration on kill skill, which is funny. There's 3 stacks of this, and you can get 3 extra stacks with the class or the ability that we took here. So that's Grave Power, adding a further boost to our overall life steal there. Now, there are some other ones, but I think the Tween Witch is by far the best. So you could go with the Bloodshot Undead Eye there. It's pretty fun, but yeah, going with this one, I just think ends up being better. There's different skill rolls you can get, but it's always going to have the 10% life steal. Skill critical hit chance is kind of cool, but I got this one here with shield, and I think that worked well. And action skill damage is also pretty good, because that action skill damage increase means that your Eldritch Blast actually hit very hard. Now, as for shields, I actually think that the Watts for Dinner is by far the best, because that 25% bonus shock damage is really nice, as that can help you tear through shields. One of the biggest things that you want to look for in a shield, though, over anything else, is that amp ability that you see there. So when energy shields are full, shots drain 35% of those shields for 150% bonus gun damage. This is huge. So with this, we're actually able to do a lot of damage frequently. We'll be draining our shield, but that's not to worry, because every time that we drain our shield, that gives us extra gun damage, which then gives us more lifesteal back. So yeah, you actually end up keeping your shields even more full this way. This also can work if you didn't want to use like this class mod, you still wanted to go heavy on lifesteal. The protein cell is interesting because you can slam on the ground and then you lose a bit of your shield there, but all damage goes through your shield, and then you get 40% bonus shock damage. So it's even better than the Watts for Dinner. The Time Keeper's new shield can also work here if you really didn't want to use the Teen Witch class mod, instead use the Bloodshot Undead Eye. And if you went that route, you'd probably want to go with this shield for the Undead Eye, because that just increases your overall health, which gives you more gun damage on top of that. But I just like the Watts for Dinner. Now, as for enhancements, these are really hard to farm, so just find the best available. One thing that I highly recommend is looking for one that increases your magazine size. And this is not like, this is going to work particularly well on something like this, the Bod here, because the Bod has the ability to get extra damage the more toric stickies we apply to the enemy, and it actually gets affected by things like sniper rifle magazine size, because it counts as all guns. Very nice. But you can also look for something with the Jacob's License bounce pass here, which lets you bounce an extra ricochet off of enemies. Really good stuff there. Anything that increases damage is always going to be nice. This one here with 25% bonus gun damage, which is applied 5 times the Bod. Really nice as well. Anything with flat off, increasing the projectiles per shot, also pretty effective. As for ordinances, the throwing knife with a critical hit is still going to be probably the best choice, because it will get fixed to fix the critical hit rate, but we want to try and get crits off on our bleeds and things like that, so this will help. We could also go with the booming Slippy, or anything that's the Slippy with life steal is going to be exceptionally good. Waterfall grenade is pretty useful too, and you can go with a heavy ordnance as well, as they're pretty fun. I just think the critical hit knife just is nice, since we're going to be wanting to shoot and then blast with Eldritch Blast. There's no real time for us to throw grenades that much, so something like the critical hit knife, give yourself the damage boost and go ahead with it. We also got a triple bypass that has the amp on it too, so with this one will give us 150% extra gun damage. This gives us 200% extra gun damage if we use a Repkit. So that is really good, especially if you have really heavy hitting gun. You can stack up crazy damage this way. Now, as for weapons, I really like the bot. I think the bot's the best weapon in the game because you can do so much with this. In particular, we want to find a role that has Torgue Lace and Sticky Magazine. Ideally, you'd have like SMG, pistol, or sniper rounds as a secondary fire. The Daedalus parts also mean that it gets affected by a lot of the other different enhancements here, which is nice, but this is just great. You can get it in a variety of different elements. In the same vein, we also have the Chaos in here, which does a similar thing, 4% damage per sticky. It has a 25-round magazine. You can put a bunch of stickies on the enemies, and then once they all explode, it deletes the boss really quickly. Same thing with the Queen's Rest, getting a 17% per shot, and it also has the Jacob's Lace accessory to critically hit and bounce around. Eviscerating Stray, any type of Stray is going to be great because it auto aims. It can have the Jacob's Lace accessory on it, and it does a pretty good amount of damage without having to aim at all. I'm also a huge fan of the Wombo combo. Can't go wrong with the Wombo combo. Lucian's Flank is okay on this build. Same thing GMR. These are two assault rifles. High damage, slower fire rate, really fast fire rate, lower damage. They work as well too. Plasma Coal can be a decent weapon as well. Even TK's Wave, one of my favorite weapons here, heavy damage, and it can chain around to multiple enemies, and then you can reload it quickly using your Eldritch Blast. Same thing as Hot Slugger, although I do find TK's Wave a little bit better in this setup, and it's hard to go wrong with Oscar Mike with the Space Laser too. This takes us to Specializations. I really like the best defense because we're going to have full health. This gives us 30% bonus damage dealt whenever our health is full. You guys obviously know that's going to be great. We also then have Now with Caffeine, getting 25% of our action skill back whenever we use a Repkit. That is also great because that's a huge boost, and we can basically keep our Eldritch Blast up almost infinitely. We also get readily this, which gives us 50% extra gun damage every time that we shoot a bullet. We get 1%, builds up to 50. That 50% gun damage is great as it boosts up the bod's damage quite a bit. And then we also got the I am a gun. So action skill now benefits from increases to gun damage. So that 50% gun damage will become 25% bonus action skill damage, which is really great. It takes half of those gun damage increases, add it to your action skill. Super good. So the Bod's a really nice gun because you can go in, activate your Eldritch Blast that shoots off a wave, which will reload your gun, and then you can just keep shooting your Eldritch Blast just like this. And yeah, you don't even really have to get that many on the enemies here because once you get a few of them, you can then just go ahead, reload your gun, and yeah, you see there the health bar goes and disappears immediately. And I'm also a huge fan of the Wombo combo. It's not going to be the highest overall damage, but it's just a fun gun that is strong overall. And when you're using it, you can get Eldritch Blast to be an elemental damage type. So this is particularly great against bosses that may have a particular weakness that you want to go against. And as mentioned, you can swap between different guns here. So you can swap between something else to give yourself the kinetic extra damage and then go right back to another. So there you have it. That is a very powerful Lifesteal Vex build in Borderlands 4. Hopefully we'll see some updates here soon and change how some of the stuff works, so I can come ahead and update you guys on what the best choices will be. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below, and I hope you have a great day.